American Comics, My Warhammer Simulator Chapter 21-30. Chinatown. Google search reading. When Rorschach returned home, his aunt was still staring at the decoration of the restaurant. He took out his shoulder bag and packed the Katachan saber and plasma pistol. Rorschach changed into a set of clothes and military boots. He took out a stack of banknotes from the bag under the bed and prepared to leave. But before leaving, Rorschach sent a text message to his aunt. He explained that he was going to do a part-time job. Before his aunt replied to the message, he turned off his phone and threw it on the bed. Rorschach walked out of the apartment and began to prepare. Facing the backbone of an entire gang, the proven killing skills and the powerful plasma pistol were enough to deal with it. However, Rorschach still needed some auxiliary means to prevent them from escaping and dispersing. So, when Rorschach purchased more and more things, he had to buy a mountaineering backpack again as a container. The purchase was over. Rorschach walked on the street and suddenly felt hungry. He looked around, found a roadside stand selling hot dogs. Started eating like crazy. In a short time, the stall owner's speed of making hot dogs could hardly keep up with Rorschach's speed of eating. He ate 15 hot dogs in a row. Rorschach paid the bill under the stall owner's awe-inspiring expression. Then, Rorschach turned to leave, but before he took a few steps, a pleading voice suddenly came from behind. "Excuse me, sir, can you please take a look at this missing person notice?" Rorschach raised his eyebrows and turned his head to look back. Mike. Ah, Rorschach. The person standing in front of him turned out to be the apprentice and tool man of the delicious Chinese restaurant. Black Mike. Because Rorschach today is completely different from before. So Mike didn't recognize him at first. Until Rorschach spoke. Mike gradually overlapped the Rorschach in his memory with the Rorschach in front of him. Oh my God, young people in puberty are simply a miracle of life. Mike subconsciously exclaimed. Maybe, Mike, is there still no news about your brother? With a smile on his face, Rorschach took the flyer from Mike's hand and asked politely. At the same time, he looked down at the flyer. It seems that in order to reduce costs, the flyer was made very roughly. There is only a black and white photo and contact information. The photo shows a black boy with missing front teeth. The left hand raised and the ear was born with a defective ear. Maybe it's the defectiveness, or the bright smile on his face. In short, the little boy is impressive at first glance. There is no news. It's like he evaporated from the face of the earth. Mike's eyebrows were full of anxiety and haggardness. He smiled bitterly and said, "My mother is about to have a mental breakdown, so I have to stand up, but Jerry has been missing for so long." Mike didn't finish his words. But Rorschach also understood what he meant. Rorschach nodded silently. He folded the flyer a few times and stuffed it into the shoulder bag on his chest. "Didn't you try to ask the media for help? You should have seen the recent big news, right? Now is a good time to let the media force the police to work hard. Why didn't you go?" But all the media were surrounded by those parents who published missing person notices. Mike shook his head and sighed helplessly. Those rich black and white people can go on the show to tell their warm stories, but for ordinary families like us from poor communities, many media can only publish a small missing person notice. It's better than nothing. After listening to Mike's words, Rorschach was speechless. He pondered for a moment and took out a small stack of bills from his pocket. That was the money left from shopping, 1,500 yuan. Rorschach kept 5 bills alone. He stuffed the remaining bills to Mike. Mike opened his mouth in surprise, and his dark skin seemed to turn red. He refused repeatedly. "No, no, no, Rorschach, this is too much. Mike, take it, just consider it as an advance payment of salary." Rorschach smiled and said, "Aunt is still waiting for her tool apprentice to go back to work." "Thank you." Mike's eyes seemed to be a little wet. He choked but forced himself to hold it back. "Thank you, I just don't know how to thank you. Finding Jerry is the best thank you, don't say anything else. After all, friends need to help each other, don't they?" Rorschach answered seriously, seeing that Mike no longer refused and carefully put away the money. Rorschach said hello to Mike, turned away. Next, he still had an important, part-time, job to do. Dash 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 dash. Hell's Kitchen, Baby Mall. As the third-generation leader of the sportswear gang, Fatboy Bobby is not only like a huge wild boar in physique. Even his style of doing things is quite similar. Greed is his eating instinct. Brutality is his reproductive desire. That's why he can control the entire gang. At least, it was like that a few days ago. Now, Fatty Bobby can only curl up his fat body in the dusty sofa. He eats frantically with elegant movements. He stares at the phone in front of him. He has been waiting for a call. A call from the king of the underground. A call that can save his gang career. A call that can save his life. However, until the sweet tomato macaroni filled Fatty Bobby's huge stomach. The phone still didn't ring. Fatty Bobby gradually fell into despair and was in great pain. He understood instantly. The sportswear gang that once dominated New York has been abandoned. The gang empire of the king of the underground. He doesn't want to attract more attention from the public and the authorities. The sportswear gang must disappear. Both physically and mentally. Waste. All a bunch of waste. At this moment, the plump fat on Fatty Bobby's cheeks kept shaking. Bang! He threw the can of tomato macaroni on the ground with a hideous face. Thick dust mixed with the red soup of macaroni. It was like a pool of broken red internal organs. Damn underground king. Damn New York Police Department. Damn New York citizens. I, Bobby, am the king of this city. King of New York. As time passed, Fat Bobby's eyes were bloodshot, and he looked crazy. Even the fat all over his body was shaking violently. He seemed to have a mental breakdown forced by the huge pressure of reality. At this moment, Fat Bobby got up with difficulty. He moved his legs and rushed out of the room in the mall like a wild boar. Boom, boom, boom. The heavy footsteps attracted the attention of the gangsters downstairs. They raised their heads with different expressions and stared at Fat Bobby, who appeared on the stairs of the mall. I declare that tonight we are going to give New York City a big surprise. Staring at everyone with a pair of bloodshot eyes. Fatty Bobby slowly raised his hands and clenched them into fists. He yelled crazily. Do you want to eat fresh food? Do you want to sleep with beautiful women? Do you want to walk freely under the sun? What if the police want you? What if you are abandoned by the king of the underground? Are we afraid? We are the gangs that rule New York. We still have a lot of weapons and ammunition. Come on, bring your guns and join my crazy party. Fat Bobby drooled, and his crazy state was like a mustache. However, his fierce speech did not resonate with anyone's emotions. The silent gang leaders looked at each other. A few inexplicable cold flashes in the depths of their eyes. At this moment, Fatty Bobby, standing on the stairs, gasped and sweated all over. He keenly discovered the undercurrent surging among the silent gang leaders. Fatty Bobby's fat face showed a crazy grin. Anyone willing to come to the party will share the gang funds in the warehouse. If you want, you can share the money now. After the party, if we have achieved results, the funds laundered in the overseas accounts can also be shared. Share equally. Before Fatty Bobby finished speaking, the gang leaders, numbering nearly 40, all showed understanding smiles. Clap. The crisp sound of countless guns being loaded almost became a large area. Come on, let's burn this city to ashes. Dash 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 dash. Hell's Kitchen after night falls. It seems to have entered another world. In the dark corners of countless buildings, men and women who have reached a deal. Making unabashed happy sounds. Between the dilapidated streets. Drug dealers carrying automatic rifles choose to set up stalls on the roadside. It seems to be to attract customers. Above the vehicles that have become mobile stalls, there are also strings of colorful small light bulbs hanging. It is both a hidden sign and a business atmosphere. Ragged homeless people, urban white-collar workers with heavy makeup. Even students with childish faces are constantly appearing, joining the carefully selected shopping ranks. At the same time, chaos and order found a way to coexist peacefully and chose to fall together. This is the tip of the iceberg of Hell's Kitchen, daily life. Hell's Kitchen, a paradise and holy place for criminals. Unlike the crowded streets outside, the deeper you go into the community of Hell's Kitchen, the appearance of the streets and buildings becomes more and more dilapidated. Even the lights dotted in the windows are getting fewer and fewer. After entering a more dilapidated street, even the lights disappeared. Except for homeless people. or criminals with serious crimes. I'm afraid no one wants to live in a place without water and electricity. Baby Mall stands in such a dark community. Like a silent giant beast. This large supermarket that once nurtured generations of local residents of Hell's Kitchen is now completely abandoned. Even in the parking lot outside the door, patches of lush grass have sprouted as the rain has watered them. Shua shua shua. The half-man-high grass kept shaking, accompanied by the sound of friction. Rorschach, who was crawling forward cautiously, showed up. At this time, his head was tightly wrapped with a red scarf. His face was covered with a gas mask. He was also wearing a black waterproof coat. At the same time, a dark Catachan saber was held in Rorschach's hand. The glowing plasma pistol was hidden in his coat pocket to prevent exposure. There was no sign of electricity in the baby store. Only the occasional flashlight light flashed through the window and the noisy voices came out faintly. The situation inside was unexpectedly presented. The poor dwarf did not lie. This is the lair of the sportswear gang. Rorschach's eyes hidden behind the gas mask flickered slightly. The crawling movement became more cautious. A few minutes later, Rorschach quietly touched the front door of the store. He hid in the corner and raised his head slightly. He looked inside the mall through the dusty glass. Between a large number of abandoned shelves. A cleared space. About 30 Slavs were holding flashlights to clean their guns and load ammunition. Almost every one of them wore bulletproof vests. Some wore military helmets on their heads. Pistols, submachine guns, automatic rifles. There was even a heavy-fire machine gun on several boxes of ammunition. At the same time, grenades were taken out of the boxes and placed in front of everyone. From time to time, someone came forward to pick it up, hung it on his chest, showed off to his companions around him, and laughed heartily. What are they going to do? So much firepower is enough for a fierce street fight. Are they driven crazy by the New York police? Are they going to fight to the death? Rorschach carefully hid his figure. The eyes hidden behind the gas mask were full of doubts. However, just when Rorschach was about to sneak in from behind, a fanatical voice suddenly sounded from inside. It attracted his attention again. Brothers, are you ready? Hurrah! Ready! Haha, I can't wait. Fat Boy Bobby, wearing an oversized bulletproof vest, stared with a pair of bloodshot eyes. He scanned back and forth in the dim light, and his subordinates were eager to fight. He was already crazy and couldn't help showing a twisted and hideous smile. Tomorrow morning, the whole New York will be shocked. The whole country, and even the whole world will be shocked. The damned king of the underground wants to hide. Wishful thinking. I, Fat Boy Bobby, will use the lives of countless New York citizens to overturn you. Even if the gang is completely destroyed and the federal investigation is launched afterwards. Those dirty deals will be exposed to the sun. King of the underground. You will also become a stray dog. Slavs will never admit defeat. Very good. I have distributed all the money in the warehouse to you. Fat Boy Bobby grinned with a flushed face. The fat on his cheeks was shaking with excitement. Now, it's time for you to repay me. There is only one goal, that is to shoot and kill people. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Before that, the smuggling ship has stopped at the port of the Hudson River. If everything goes well, you will go out to sea with me on the ship and share more wealth. Hurrah! Fat Boy Bobby raised his fist violently. He shook his arms desperately and kept shouting. Huh! At this moment, excited Fat Boy Bobby suddenly found. A blue light ball the size of a human head flew over the shelf in the blink of an eye and flew in front of him. Bang! The plasma exploded instantly. Google search reading. The explosion of bright lightning completely overwhelmed Fat Boy Bobby. The extremely high temperature burned the body weighing 200 kilograms to ashes in an instant. Bang bang bang. At the same time, more plasma light balls spewed out from the dark corners. For a moment, it was like a roaring crazy thunderstorm. What is this? Ghost. Ball lightning. Mysteries that are clearly beyond human common sense. The gangsters present were in a state of shock. They roared, they shouted. But no one dared to raise their firearms to fight back. However, wait until Fat Boy Bobby's ashes are blown away by the wind. When it fell to the ground, someone reacted instantly. Unfortunately, it's too late. Countless plasma light balls overwhelmed everyone present. It even detonated grenades piled on the ground. Boom boom boom. The air seemed to tremble. The violent shock wave shattered all the glass in the baby mall, making a crackling sound. Right now, one was wearing a black waterproof coat. Her hair is wrapped in a red turban. A tall figure with a gas mask on his face slowly stepped out of the shadows. He faced the remaining flames and heat in the air. And the flashlight light kept flashing. The whole person feels like walking on the fresh streets after the rain. Stepped into this extremely bloody slaughterhouse. At this moment, countless pieces of broken flesh and blood mixed with human ashes. The ground is covered with potholes. Occasionally, there will be stumps and broken arms that are still twitching. Then he was stepped over by a tall silent figure. Staring at the extremely tragic scenes around him, Rorschach seemed to be used to it. Even a little discomfort emerged in my heart. He was also gradually drowned out by the sound of breathing echoing in the mask. This made him feel like he was back in the good days in the underground alleyways. However, even Rorschach was mentally prepared. I still underestimated the power of the plasma pistol again. It only took more than 10 seconds. More than 30 armed humans completely disappeared from the world. Although there is also the unexpected factor of grenade explosion. But this is the real battlefield. There are always surprises and surprises. The soles of Rorschach's shoes stepped on sticky flesh. Through the diffuse smoke, it was confirmed that there was no one alive in the entire scene. Rorschach hesitated. Still, he bent down and picked up the firearm that had not been blown to pieces and melted between flesh and blood. After simple screening by the simulator, there were only 18 firearms left that met the requirements. Absorbed into cooldown time. Open black lens bracket increase cooling time, 18 hours. Close black lens bracket. What a big loss. Rorschach couldn't help but mutter to himself. I deeply regret my reckless behavior just now. He originally wanted to sneak into the assassination by setting up a trap. It wasn't until the dead person made the other party aware. Then used the powerful plasma pistol to solve the battle. However, the fat guy was obviously the gang leader. A crazy pep talk. While Rorschach was caught off guard, he also had no time to prepare. He could only use his plasma pistol to make a fool of himself. Try to stop these guys from breaking out of Hell's Kitchen and causing more casualties. The result: outstanding effect. At this moment, Rorschach, who was wearing a gas mask, took a deep breath, as if he remembered something. He turned around and searched his surroundings again. It's just that the scope is larger. Sure enough, he came out of several abandoned shelves that were knocked down by the blast wave. Easily found a dozen black packages. Opening the zipper, there were stacks of banknotes inside. This seems to be the life-saving money revealed in Fatty's words. Well, it's not a loss. Rorschach, who had no time to count them, picked up the black packages one by one, turned around and walked towards the door of Baby Mall. The loud noise of the explosion and the rising smoke will soon attract the police or criminals. As the culprit, Rorschach needs to stay away from the scene. However, just as Rorschach walked to the door of Baby Mall, when one foot has not yet stepped out of the threshold, a dark red short stick suddenly shot out from the dark corner. Sensing the danger, Rorschach dropped the package in his hand. The dark Catachan saber was raised in an instant. The blade is facing forward, blocking the way. Boom! With a soft sound, the short metal stick was cut in half by the sharp-edged Catachan saber. Rorschach's back bowed slightly, and his muscles swelled. The soles of the military boots bit the ground hard. The whole person is ready for battle. At the same time, a slender figure wearing dark red leather armor also walked out of the shadows. The short stick in one hand danced slowly and groaned softly. Night Stalker. Rorschach narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice through the gas mask. Don't mind your own business, it's just gang criminals who died here. Red Turban. I thought you were just a false character made up by the police to deal with the media. The night demon wearing a dark red mask listened intently. The short horns on its head shone slightly, like a pair of devil's fangs. Hell's Kitchen is my territory, you've crossed the line, and you shouldn't kill anyone. Before he finished speaking, the night demon rushed forward. The short stick in his hand seemed to have life, and suddenly stretched a lot. The silver stick head attacked like a venomous snake, whipping Rorschach's head. HMPH. Rorschach snorted coldly from his gas mask. He didn't say much. He raised the Catachan saber in his hand slightly. The blade collided violently with the stick head, completely knocking the opponent away. However, it was such a short time. The Night Demon actually came to Rorschach quickly. The distance between the two sides was less than 1 meter. At the same time that the short stick in his hand was pulled back by the steel wire. One foot stomped on the ground, and the knee wrapped in leather armor hit Rorschach's abdomen. Rorschach's left hand clenched into a fist. It fell down with a bang, and almost at the same time hit the Night Demon's knee. Bang! The fist and leg intersected, making a dull collision sound. The huge reaction force also made the two men lean back slightly. In comparison, Rorschach's reaction was obviously faster. He immediately followed his subconscious habit. He took out his plasma pistol and shot the other party. But his instinct was forcibly controlled by reason. It also made Rorschach hesitate for a moment. However, the Night Demon in front of him seemed to have caught Rorschach's small flaw. He raised 1 foot high and kicked Rorschach's chest fiercely. Bang! Rorschach's strong body flew backwards in an instant, and only landed heavily 3 meters away. Seeing that the other party was in a weak position, the Night Demon seemed to be slightly relieved. He shook the short stick with his palm. Just as he was about to move forward, he stopped and listened. At this moment, Rorschach pressed one of his palms on his chest. The expression on the face behind the mask became much colder. He slowly got up from the ground and twisted his head slightly. Rorschach didn't seem to have any intention of taking out the plasma pistol. Instead, he tore off his waterproof coat and threw it on the ground. At the same time, Rorschach actually held the Catachan saber in reverse. With the back of the saber facing outward, he spoke word by word. "Oh, Matthew Murdoch, if I don't beat you into a hospital bed. This matter is not over. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories." Who are you? The identity is suddenly revealed. Google search reading. The shocked Night Demon subconsciously waved the short stick in his hand. The silver stick head is like a controlled dart. Pulled by the wire, it flew towards Rorschach's head. However, Rorschach remained silent and did not panic. In an instant, the Catachan saber in his hand was swung rapidly. The head of the stick flew off again. Then, Rorschach's military boots stamped hard on the ground. He leaned over and charged towards the Night Demon. Night Stalker did the same thing. He faced Rorschach and rushed forward. However, his body movements seemed to be no longer as free and easy as before. Every moment my hands and feet were wrapped in a restless mood. And as the distance between the two parties gets closer. Got no response. The Night Demon seemed to be angry and raised his arm, and punched out his fierce fist instantly. Bang! However, his attack was blocked by the already prepared Rorschach with his elbow. There was a dull sound. Bang! Then, the back of Catachan's saber struck Night Demon on the shoulder. Even if the Night Demon is wearing a uniform and leather armor. However, the tyrannical power from Rorschach is obviously difficult to bear. Night Demon's body suddenly shook, teetering on the edge of collapse. At the same time, Rorschach's palm quickly stretched forward. He suddenly grabbed Night Demon's arm as he retracted his short stick and tried to fight back. Drink. Rorschach exhaled loudly and twisted his waist and abdomen. A powerful rear projection threw the Night Demon completely out. Boom. The Night Stalker knocked over countless abandoned shelves. It landed heavily on the ground a few meters away, splashing countless dust and garbage. The eyes behind Rorschach's mask narrowed slightly. He seemed to have discovered the Night Demon's weakness. That is, the absolute strength brought by physical fitness is obviously not as good as his. In an instant, Rorschach took steps. Before Night Demon could recover from the physical pain, he once again rushed in front of Night Demon, who was trying to get up to fight. Rorschach grabbed the collar of the leather uniform. His legs and feet tensed hard, and the muscles all over his body continued to expand. Swish! Rorschach used centrifugal force to spin half a circle. Then let go and throw it out instantly. The Night Demon has yet to recover from the heavy fall. It actually flew out again. Waving his arms, Night Demon managed to control his body and still crossed the air. It hit a wall that was in disrepair. A dark and deep hole was suddenly opened. Rorschach, who remained silent, was somewhat unforgiving. He started running and rushed in front of Night Demon in an instant. Rorschach leaned over and pulled up the night demon, who started to bleed between his mouth and nose. The back of the sword was raised high, and it was about to fall like raindrops. Then, his whole body suddenly stopped moving. He froze in place. At this time, Rorschach looked straight at the dark and deep breach in the wall. Through the light of flashlights scattered around the store, and a burning fire that has not yet been extinguished, the depth of the wall that was accidentally knocked open by the night demon. It was as if something was floating around, it swaying in the wind. The confused Rorschach casually dropped the unable to move night demon. He raised the Katachan saber in his palm. Turning the blade over, he chopped wildly at the wall in front of him, trying to enlarge the hole. Cough. At this time, Night Demon, who had just recovered from dizziness, struggled to get up. He clenched his fists at Rorschach's back. Just as he was about to speak, the sound waves that kept echoing in his ears quickly outlined the scene inside the wall. Night Demon also froze on the spot. His whole body was stiff to an unimaginable degree. It seemed that he no longer had the energy to compete with Rorschach. Kakaka. The sound of Rorschach hacking at the wall was like invisible nails hammering into the Night Demon's heart. Then, Night Demon, who wiped away the blood from the corner of his mouth, bent down to pick up the short stick, walked forward without saying a word, and helped Rorschach destroy the wall. 5 minutes later, the entire wall was completely peeled off by two people. And the scene inside the wall is completely revealed in front of you. In a hidden warehouse of only 20 square meters, densely hanging objects were put into transparent bags. A corpse that has been vacuumed out, even though it seems to be filled with a lot of anti-corrosion materials. But the smell of corruption still keeps escaping. Even Rorschach's gas mask couldn't resist it. What's even more shocking is that none of the corpses in the vacuum bags were adults. All children. They were disemboweled one by one, their internal organs were removed without sutures, and even their eyeballs were taken out, leaving only horrifying hollow holes. Rorschach and Night Demon stood still, motionless. At this moment, the one on the outside of the warehouse was obviously a vacuum bag that had just been hung up. It still caught Rorschach's attention. It seems to contain a little black boy who was born with a mutilated palm. In an instant, Rorschach's fingertips trembled slightly. He raised his arm silently and hesitated for a moment. In the end, Rorschach flipped the saber. The hanging body was moved with the handle of the knife, revealing the profile of the little black boy. At first glance, the corpse's ears seemed to be born defective. There was only a small hole. The expressionless Rorschach could not help but look away, as if he could not bear to look directly. Jerry. The brother that Big Mouth Mike had been looking for. Now he has become a rotting and smelly corpse. Heretic. In an instant, Rorschach's chest was filled with burning anger. The miserable experience of a human child. It gradually resonated with the ideas of the Empire in Warhammer. Heretics and chaos must die. People go to prison and dogs die. Chaos. Rorschach's suppressed angry voice echoed in the empty hall. At the same time, it also made the dazed Night Demon completely sober. He took a deep breath. He stepped forward and picked up the body of a child, trying to put it down from the hook. The Night Demon's movements were very gentle, like a loving priest baptizing a newborn child, full of holiness and mercy. But Rorschach tightened his saber again. He walked to the center of the bloody battlefield without saying a word. Rorschach looked down, looking for any corpse with a head. Then, he chopped off the opponent's head with his knife. "What are you doing?" The hoarse and low voice of the Night Demon came from behind. Full of doubts and confusion, Rorschach, who had just chopped off a head, did not turn his head back. A cold voice slowly burst out from the mask. "Sacrifice for the children." Before the voice fell, the Night Demon knelt down slowly with a vacuum bag containing a child's body in his hand. After he gently put down the body, a prayer from the Bible also sounded low. Rorschach carried a few heads, walked to the nearby place and put them down, then turned around to continue. The Night Demon, who had never killed anyone, did not stop Rorschach's brutal methods. The silent Rorschach did not interrupt the Night Demon's useless prayer. At least at this moment. Two men with different life experiences. But the paths they chose seemed to lead to the same destination. They are all using their own methods, comforting the souls of the children who have not yet left. Half an hour later, the two men raced ahead of the police's arrival. Part ways. Rorschach was no longer in the mood to tangle with the night demon. The night devil whose identity is exposed has no energy and motivation. Stop Rorschach from taking away the stolen money. And since those remains were discovered, Rorschach's chest seemed to be burning with a swelling anger. It made him want to kill all the gangs in New York. However, on the way home, after Rorschach had disposed of most of the disposable equipment along the way, the gradual return of reason stopped his impulse. The sportswear mafia has been destroyed. The crisis involving him and his aunt disappeared. The rest is no longer his task. No matter how incompetent the federal government is, it will face such a sensational thing. It is also time to mobilize forces among various departments. NYPD, FBI. Maybe SHIELD will be involved in the investigation. If the media learns more inside information. Massive reporting. I'm afraid Stark, who is far away in Los Angeles, will also get involved. In the age of science and technology, we face the all-pervasive artificial intelligence Jarvis. Even the cautious Rorschach. There is no confidence that can be hidden. He will face authorities one day, but not yet. Keep a low profile and keep a low profile. Until Rorschach mastered more powerful power. Be able to face everything more calmly. Is his primary goal. He was never a hero. Just an ordinary person fighting for his family. 4 o'clock in the morning. Rorschach, returning from Hell's Kitchen, enters the apartment. Instead of going straight home, he headed to the basement. Reinforcement work is now completed on the basement. It can be temporarily used as a secret base. Rorschach, who was not sleepy, counted the stolen funds. 1.98 million in cash. If you add the remaining 680,000 under the bed in Rorschach's bedroom. A total of 2.66 million. Rorschach became a millionaire overnight. Unfortunately, large amounts of black money cannot be deposited into the card at once. Unless Rorschach is willing to spend time ants moving. Save it little by little. Collected all the cash and hid the Catachan saber. Rorschach, who carried a plasma pistol with him, locked the iron door of the basement. Go upstairs and go home. When Rorschach stepped into his home, he seemed to have left everything behind. He took a shower carefully. Then I found some food from the refrigerator for a snack. As the cold food slowly enters the stomach, Rorschach, who was somewhat disturbed, gradually found the feeling of the past. That is the security of home. Didn't wake up my aunt who was still sleeping. After finishing the food, Rorschach returned to the bedroom. He placed the plasma pistol next to the pillow and fell asleep slowly. The bodies of 23 children were lined up. Placed neatly on the ground. 13 mutilated and bloody heads. Piling up into a terrifying hill. Standing in front of the child's body. It seemed as if they were paying homage, but also seemed to be simply venting their anger. This is a large number of New York police officers who are belatedly arriving. After stepping into a messy baby shopping mall. The terrifying scene I saw at first sight. For a time, both experienced police officers. The faces of all the new police officers who had just joined the job suddenly changed. They cannot bear the rising desire to vomit. They all ran to the parking lot outside the baby mall and sprayed as hard as they could. Even if it is repeated orders from superiors. No one wanted to enter the scene a second time. Being punished at work is still a secondary issue. Psychological shadow is something that will follow you for a lifetime. Hence, this embarrassing situation. This continued until the FBI intervened early. Only then did we reluctantly start the basic investigation process for Baby Mall. But even well-informed federal agents, faced with a large number of crime scenes where the identity of the deceased is complex and the nature of the case is ambiguous, it was also at a loss. In particular, the remains of children may be implicated in previous news reports of child abductions. The FBI began to hope that this was a hot potato. As the reports are leveled up, other departments will take over the investigation. Rorschach, the sleeping Rorschach was woken up from his sleep by his aunt. He opened his eyes and saw his aunt standing in front of the bedroom door in her nightgown. His aunt never entered his bedroom without permission. Unless something happens. Rorschach took a deep breath, stood up and asked, "Ant, what's wrong?" "Big news, Stark." The ant danced happily and described to Rorschach. "That billionaire Tony Stark admits his hero status." Rorschach frowned slightly and blinked. "No way, so fast." He got up and followed his ant into the living room. The image of Stark admitting his identity as Iron Man is being played over and over again on TV. Even if Rorschach keeps jumping channels. Every TV station was reporting the same story. Billionaire Stark returns from his disappearance. The prodigal son turned around and became a superhero. This is absolutely breaking news right now. Even the previous child kidnapping incident was completely suppressed and became yesterday's news. After all, even after Rorschach's deception, the ant who knew about the existence of the hero in advance also fell into a strong desire to eat melons. Not to mention those people who need entertainment every day. However, Rorschach was not very excited. Stark's hero identity was made public. It also made the whole world enter a chaotic era with monsters crawling everywhere. Especially heroes like Night Devil. In the past, they were just frequent visitors in the police files. Urban legends circulating in the Steel City. But from now on, while superheroes continue to appear, those supervillains who are more harmful will continue to appear. Seeing that, my aunt began to pick up her mobile phone and share various gossips with her friends. Rorschach, who was gradually enveloped by a sense of crisis, decided to conduct the next simulation as soon as possible. The consumption of cooling time requires him to buy a large number of guns to replenish. Anyway, so much black money must find a way to be converted into Rorschach's power. Rorschach said to his aunt and returned to the bedroom. He did not start the simulation immediately, but sat cross-legged on the ground. Rorschach, calm and composed, prayed briefly and powerfully to the Emperor. "Emperor, bless you." Rorschach, with a solemn expression, opened the simulator. Because he encountered the evil god Tzeentch when he chose the identity of a Krieg grenadier last time. Rorschach hesitated for a moment and chose to descend randomly. Open black lens bracket simulation starting, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket current identity, Katachan recruit, Krieg grenadier. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, please choose your descending identity first, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, if you refuse, you will descend randomly. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, identity selection has been refused, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket simulation starting, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, you descended into the Warhammer universe, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, time, unknown, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, location, Milky Way, unknown star region, Pelia, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, you descended to the surface of the planet. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, you found yourself inside an escape pod. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, you didn't have time to observe the surrounding environment. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, you were attacked by a suffocating stench so strong that it made you sick. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, you fell into an unstoppable coma. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, political commissar, one more, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, you seemed to hear some noise, and then completely lost consciousness. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, you woke up from coma and opened your eyes. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, your sense of smell smelled the disgusting horrible stench again. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, you suddenly felt dizzy and tried to adapt for a long time before you could barely get better. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, there was something wrong with your sense of smell and taste. They failed. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, your unexpected behavior seemed to attract the attention of others. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, a middle-aged officer wearing the uniform of an imperial commissar and with outstanding appearance walked out of the shadows and came to you. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, why do I remember that there were only Jurgen and I in the escape pod? The middle-aged officer stared at you intently and said slowly. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The middle-aged officer's wide-brimmed hat on his head was slightly tilted, apparently because the temperature in the escape pod was too high. He also casually tore open the collar of his clothes, revealing a clump of dense and vigorous chest hair. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You regained your spirit after your sense of smell failed. You told the other party that everything was arranged by the Emperor. You are loyal to the Empire and are willing to offer your loyalty to the Emperor. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The middle-aged officer looked at you repeatedly and put away the laser pistol in his palm. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. He showed you a brilliant smile and chose to believe your words. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Strange young man, there is a good news and a bad news, which one do you want to hear first? The middle-aged officer's smile did not diminish. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You hesitated for a moment and decided to listen to the bad news first. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The bad news is that we are surrounded by endless greenskins, because Comrade Jurgen's old fear of flying has relapsed, and the escape pod he personally drove sent us directly to the rear of the Orc defense line. More importantly, we don't have many weapons and ammunition, and even food supplies are running out. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The middle-aged officer introduced the current situation to you without hiding anything. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You agreed with this is indeed very bad news. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Because the middle-aged officer had an expression of indifference on his face even when he told the bad news, you couldn't help but gradually raise hope, and you couldn't wait to ask about the good news. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Good news. In such a bad situation, we now have at least 3 people to face it all. The middle-aged officer's outstanding face finally revealed a long-hidden smirk. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You suddenly realized, and at the same time couldn't help shaking your head and sighing. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Having one more hand to face the greenskins is probably the real reason why the other party is willing to believe you. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Even the Chaos Forces are unwilling to face a large group of greenskin orcs who are crying for a fight alone. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You gradually understand the current situation. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You showed some combat capabilities to the other party, and you won the recognition of the middle-aged officer. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You try to ask the middle-aged officer's name. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. K-Face Kane, the political commissar of the 597th Regiment of Valhalla. Young man, no matter where you came from in the past, now, welcome to join the 597th Regiment, soldier, for the Emperor. The political commissar named Kane said to you sincerely. Open black lens bracket. You chose to join the 597th Regiment and became a soldier under political commissar Kane. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. After Kane's introduction, you got to know the real owner of the terrible stench again. He is Kane's adjutant. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Comrade Jurgen, the first-class gunner, is a rude man who has been troubled by the stench and severe skin disease for many years. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You tried to communicate with Jurgen, but the other party was very resistant to you, who had a mysterious origin. Political commissar Kane assured him that you were a trustworthy imperial warrior. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Comrade Jurgen seemed to listen to Kane's explanation and reluctantly accepted your existence. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. On the first day, you followed Comrade Jurgen, who looked unfriendly, to plunder all the supplies in the escape pod. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. After careful sorting, you and Jurgen found that the supplies that were originally enough for 2 people to sustain for about half a month could only last for a week because of your unexpected joining. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Comrade Jurgen expressed dissatisfaction with this, and you said that you could appropriately reduce your food portion. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Commissar Kane immediately rejected the proposal. He believed that the 3 of them could not sit and wait for death, and waiting for the Empire's rescue was unrealistic. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The only way for the three of you to survive now is to cross the green-skinned orcs' defense line and enter the control area of the Empire. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The next day, before departure, Comrade Jurgen carried all the food supplies and his heavy melta-gun. Even though it was overweight and difficult to move, Comrade Jurgen was unwilling to share the extra weapons with you. After Commissar Kane persuaded him, Comrade Jurgen was willing to give you a laser gun, but he only gave you an energy battery. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You had no grudges about this. The laser gun was much better than facing the screaming greenskins with bare hands. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. On the third day, you entered a forest for a short rest and unexpectedly encountered a small group of wandering greenskins. You made Commissar Kane look at you with admiration through your accurate shooting skills and the ruthlessness when executing the greenskins. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Even the stubborn Jurgen had to admit your excellence, and he, who was always stingy, actually gave you 2 more energy batteries. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. On the fourth day, because of Jurgen's poor sense of direction, you entered a plain area, and you were once again chased by a large number of greenskins. Kane recognized that these were greenskins from the Evil Sun clan through the clan logo of the orcs and the red vehicles they drove. They were obsessed with the speed of the gallop and the roar of the engine, and believed that painting the vehicle red would increase the speed by 3 times. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You, Commissar Kane and Comrade Jurgen fled in a hurry, running until you were exhausted and barely got rid of the greenskins behind you. After a short rest, you found that because you were only concerned with escaping, the few energy batteries on you were completely lost, and even Jurgen's food rations on his back had lost a day's worth. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. On the 5th day, your stomach was extremely hungry, and you could only use precious fresh water to quench your appetite. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Kane gave you half of the food Jurgen gave him again. You wanted to refuse, but Commissar Kane said that he didn't have the habit of letting his soldiers fight on an empty stomach, and you also needed to maintain your combat ability. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. At night, Comrade Jurgen came to you shyly and stuffed you with a few precious candies. At the same time, he also expressed regret for the lost supplies. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You laughed it off and tried to comfort the stubborn Jurgen. The Emperor would bless the 3 of you. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. On the 6th day, under Kane's leadership, you didn't encounter any harassment from greenskins along the way. Perhaps it was the Emperor's mercy that you even found a place where you could replenish a lot of fresh water, and there was no trace of a greenskin around. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. In the first week, you lost a lot of weight. Because of the large amount of fresh water, you were still in high spirits. Kane and Jurgen were obviously much more haggard. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Your food supply has been completely exhausted. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You accidentally raised a bold question, that is, whether the meat of greenskin orcs can be eaten. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Kane and Jurgen looked at each other, but they did not object to your question, but were eager to try. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. In the 2nd week, the 3 of you finally failed to eat the local specialty, greenskin barbecue. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. On the verge of collapse, you accidentally encountered a small group of defeated local defense forces. Kane, who was tortured by hunger, immediately revealed his identity as an officer of the Imperial Political Commissar and temporarily took over the command of the entire team. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You found piles of Ant Bull cans and combat rations in a Chimera infantry fighting vehicle. You couldn't suppress your excitement and shared a lot of joy with Kane and Jurgen. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. However, just as you were about to fall asleep after a full meal, Kane with a serious expression found you. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Be careful, they may be rebels. Commissar Kane lowered his voice. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You sighed and picked up the laser gun again. Close black lens bracket. You have finished warming up. After a brief conflict, all the rebels surrendered. Open black lens bracket. You think this small group of defense forces in front of you are not rebels, they are just a group of mortal troops who were frightened by the billowing greenskins. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Because, even their battle cry is that they don't want to be sent to the front line to die by the Imperial Political Commissar. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You once again killed several rebels who tried to incite the soldiers. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Comrade Jurgen also took up the heavy melta-gun that he never gave up, and a brutal massacre was about to begin. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Political Commissar Kane stopped you and Jurgen's barbaric behavior in time. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Kane stood on the top of a Chimera infantry fighting vehicle. He gave an emotional speech to the frustrated defense forces who had abandoned their armor about retreat being an attack. His words were full of impassioned words. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You are non-committal about this, but before the speech is over, Political Commissar Kane is surrounded by warm support from all the defense forces. All the soldiers are high-spirited and morale-boosting, as if they want to fight the green-skinned orcs for another 300 battles. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Political Commissar Kane miraculously obtained the command authority of this small defense force. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You were puzzled and found Kane to ask. Political Commissar Kane replied with a smile, he just gave them a hope of living. Close black lens bracket. In the third week, you who entered motorization with both feet met more local refugees on their escape journey, as well as more defense forces defeated by the greenskins. After careful consideration, Political Commissar Kane relied on his extremely excellent eloquence to win over. They defeated the defeated army, calmed the frightened local refugees, and formed a huge fleeing team. Open black lens bracket. You and Jurgen secretly dealt with some unconvinced thorns, and at the same time took on the arduous responsibility of protecting local refugees. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. However, with the increase in numbers and equipment, your huge and bloated escape team seems to have attracted more attention from the greenskins. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. They ride on tattered junk motorcycles, brandishing machetes and oversized firearms, and begin to chase and intercept your fleeing team. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. In the fourth week, the situation of the fleeing team is not good. Although there is no shortage of food supplies, weapons and ammunition, more and more greenskins have become a more deadly problem. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Political Commissar Kane believes that the orc warlord must have discovered your fleeing team and issued an order to stop the pursuit. You and Comrade Jurgen are gradually tired of dealing with the frequent greenskins. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. At the suggestion of Political Commissar Kane, you temporarily put down your laser gun and began to clumsily try to command the defense forces that were completely integrated by you. You reluctantly became an officer, and your perspective also increased from the battle to the entire battlefield. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You led the defense forces to attack everywhere, struggling to resist the incoming greenskins. Close black lens bracket. The escape team briefly repaired, and Political Commissar Kane found you who was resting. Open black lens bracket. Kane thinks with a solemn expression that if you cannot get rid of the large number of greenskins behind the team, it may be difficult to successfully reach the Empire's sphere of influence. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You cheer up and express your willingness to lead a death squad composed of defense forces to try to guide the greenskins' attack direction. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Commissar Kane smiled slightly and declined politely, saying that the Valhalla 597th Regiment did not have the battlefield custom of abandoning its comrades. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. In the fifth week, you, Political Commissar Kane, and Comrade Jurgen, plus a group of defense forces who volunteered to join the death squads, chose a Chimera infantry fighting vehicle with a stable machine soul to start a fight with the greenskins behind the fleeing team. Engaged in a fierce blocking battle. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Your mission is very simple: attract the attention of a large number of greenskins and buy time for the escape team, which is mainly local refugees. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The brutality of this battle was beyond imagination. More than half of the 10 kamikaze defense forces were killed or injured. You barely completed the mission and attracted a large number of greenskins. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. In the speeding Chimera infantry tank, you lowered your head to deal with the injuries on your body. You looked at political Commissar Kane, only to find that the other party was unscathed. It was incredible. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. In the 6th week, under the leadership of political Commissar Kane, the remaining 8 of your death squad started a guerrilla war with the greenskins. The greenskins stopped pursuing and took a rest. You stepped forward to harass and throw grenades. The angry greenskins got up to pursue. You relied on the mobility advantage of the Chimera infantry fighting vehicle and fire interception to get rid of the greenskins. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Due to the increase in the number of battles, the combat quality of the 5 defense troops in the death squads has improved a lot. None of them are afraid of the green skins. Instead, they see the green skins with their eyes shining, waiting for a beating. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Fortunately, you are gradually approaching the Empire's sphere of influence. Comrade Jurgen believes that victory is just around the corner, and even you have to agree with this idea. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Unfortunately, the orc warlord who has been waiting for a long time is blocking your way. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The sudden encounter caught you off guard. The death squad instantly lost 3 members. You were surrounded by countless greenskins. The mobility advantage of the Chimera infantry fighting vehicle was completely lost. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Facing the disaster of annihilation, political Commissar Kane put forward a plan to capture the thief first and capture the king without changing his expression. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You didn't hesitate at all, you just silently carried a few terrifyingly powerful melt bombs. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The Suicide Squad members rely on the firepower of the Chimera infantry fighting vehicle to attract other greenskins. You, Commissar Kane and Jurgen attack in the direction of the orc warlord. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Comrade Jurgen's heavy melta-gun once again played its role, and the powerful firepower briefly cleared a passage to face the orc warlord. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You charge ahead of Commissar Kane, firing the laser gun at will. Almost every shot will knock down a greenskin. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. However, the number of greenskins never decreases, and they surge towards you too like a tide. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You and Commissar Kane are trapped by the greenskins, and the heavy melta-gun operated by Comrade Jurgen beside you is about to go out of service. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. At the critical moment, you show Commissar Kane the melta-bomb you carry. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Commissar Kane hesitates, but then nods heavily. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You take advantage of the passage that Jurgen's heavy melta-gun has cleared again and launch a final death charge towards the orc warlord. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You are seriously injured when you are 5 meters away from the orc warlord. You have to detonate the melta-bomb in advance to try to cause damage to the orc warlord. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You are instantly melted into ashes by the extreme high temperature. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You are dead. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This simulation ends, which takes 42 days. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This simulation obtains the option to keep. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket 1. Imperial Infantryman's Introductory Manual, full set. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket 2. Melta-bomb 1. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket 3. Caiaphas Kane's chainsword, finely crafted. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This simulation has exceeded 24 hours, and simulator wear and tear has not been exempted. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Cooling time, 42 hours. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Current available cooling time, 160 hours. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Do you want to consume cooling time? Close black lens bracket. Selected consumption cooling time, 42 hours. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Current remaining cooling time, 118 hours. Close black lens bracket. Rorschach blinked a few times. Direct consumption of resource time offsets the simulated cooldown. Then, he laughed with surprise. In this simulation, he actually lived for 1.5 months. This is the highest record since Rorschach obtained the simulator and simulated it several times. Could it be that the Emperor's blessing and Commissar Kane, nicknamed Warhammer Wei Xiaobao, played an important role together? Rorschach laughed it off. His eyes fell back on the reward options provided by the simulator. For the first 2 items, Rorschach almost glanced at it without even looking at it. He chose the third option without hesitation. Kephas Kane's masterfully crafted chainsword. This is one of the symbolic weapons of the Warhammer universe. A bolter in one hand and a chainsword in the other. Such a free and easy fighting image is not far away from Rorschach. He's at least half done. Moreover, after so long of simulation, Rorschach also understood, no matter how many weapons and equipment he obtained in the simulation, when selecting rewards, they can only be obtained randomly. And you can only choose one of them, unless it's a gift from the Emperor. Like a plasma pistol that never overheats. However, Rorschach also doesn't want to receive blessings every day. Once the Emperor laid eyes on him again, then he was not facing the Chaos Demon. There was just another little entanglement and collision with the 4 gods. Just when Rorschach's thoughts were drifting away. One handle is 1 meter and 3 meters long and half a foot wide. A chain sword weighing 5 kilograms appeared out of thin air in his palm. Rorschach jumped up from the ground. He exerted a little force on his arm and waved the chain sword in his hand a few times. On the single-edged chain sword, countless sharp saw teeth have not yet begun to rotate. It also split the air in an instant, emitting waves of low buzzing. For today's Rorschach, 5 kilograms is just the right weight. It's full of weight when danced. Just by virtue of the weight of the chainsword itself. It's enough to crack open a human skull in one stroke. Grinning, Rorschach successfully found the motor switch located on the hilt of the sword. He flipped the switch. The built-in motor in the chainsword started instantly. The deafening roar resounded throughout the room. Boom boom boom. Countless sharp sawtooths rotated rapidly, pulling out a terrifying afterimage that was breathtaking. The excited Rorschach felt the strong vibrations transmitted from his palms. As well as the huge roar in his ears, he couldn't help but have a bright smile on his face. Bang! However, Rorschach, who was caught up in excitement, did not remain complacent for long. I saw that the bedroom door was suddenly opened. The ant looked at Rorschach with a shocked face, who was holding a chainsword and smiling stupidly. Rorschach, you. Before her eyes widened, her aunt could speak. Rorschach quickly pressed the switch and turned off the chainsword's motor. He smiled awkwardly and said, "Haha, they are all issued uniformly. I just took them out individually to play with. Oh, why do you boys like to dance with knives and guns?" The shock on the ant's face quickly faded, as if her emotions had calmed down quickly. She couldn't help rolling her eyes and said in a complaining tone, "Be careful, don't hurt yourself. If you have time, go find a place where no one is around to play. The neighbor next door has to work night shift." Before he finished speaking, the door was closed again. Rorschach was left alone in the bedroom in a daze. For a moment, the expression on Luo Shaw's face was one of surprise and uncertainty. "Aunt, did you take the wrong medicine? Or, did the vaccination given to my aunt take effect?" Rorschach couldn't help blinking his eyes several times, indicating that he had no clue. However, he did not continue to waste brain cells. After all, aunt's support is a good thing, right? Rorschach reluctantly put the chainsword on the bed. He pulled out a laptop from his desk that he hadn't touched in a long time. Opened Google Chrome to query. Rorschach vaguely remembered that the chainsword in the Warhammer universe requires a metal element called promethium as driving fuel. Unlike the plasma pistol, even if the battery power is low, it can be heated by fire for a period of time. Frowning, Rorschach searched repeatedly for a long time. "I just found the market price of promethium from a professional forum. It's about 60,000 yuan per ton." Rorschach couldn't help laughing. Even if he chopped the chain sword to pieces, he probably wouldn't have used a ton of fuel, right? Luo Sha's brows widened, and then he seemed to remember something again. Opened Google Chrome again. He went directly to Amazon's shopping site and ordered a cheap, sturdy musical instrument case. After all, the 1 3 meter chain sword is too eye-catching. If you take it out, you need to carry out basic camouflage. After everything is done, Rorschach lay on the bed, raised the chain sword with one hand, and admired it repeatedly. Then, he subconsciously opened the simulator. Check the cooldown time above. 118 hours remaining. At first glance it looks quite abundant. But as the simulation time becomes longer and longer in the future, I'm afraid it's not enough. Rorschach needs to replenish gun resources as soon as possible. And has a stable supply channel. The evil star of the underworld has no way to go, so Rorschach plans to abide by the law. Rorschach squinted and picked up the phone. We inquired about the selling price of the guns and the conditions for purchasing them in large quantities. However, he frowned again while browsing the information on the internet. New York City is a city where guns are prohibited by law. It has very strict gun control laws. Even adults with legal gun licenses purchase guns. He can only hold a weak pistol. Moreover, even if Rorschach has a gun license, he is very willing to go to other states that support gun ownership. Only one gun can be purchased from legal sources every 15 days. For Rorschach, consuming a gun is as simple as drinking water and eating. It is undoubtedly a drop in the bucket. Rorschach smacked his lips and jumped up from the bed. He casually put down the chainsword he was playing with. Then he took out a few wads of cash from under the bed and walked out of the bedroom. The situation online may not be true. He needs to go find a gun shop in New York and ask about it. Rorschach spoke to his aunt, then went out and left the apartment. It has to be said, even if guns are prohibited by law, there are gun shops almost everywhere in New York. Even some grocery stores are licensed to sell guns. Rorschach briefly asked several gun shop owners. But I found that the information on the internet was indeed not nonsense. During this period, only one shop owner told Rorschach. If Rorschach would pay more, he would sell 10 pistols. Rorschach tentatively asked about the price. He instantly understood the gun shop owner in front of him. Think of him as a young scapegoat who doesn't understand the market. Rorschach smiled and refused. Back to the streets again. He disappeared into the crowd. Half a day later. After visiting most of the gun stores in Chinatown, Rorschach chose to give up temporarily. According to what Rorschach knew, he followed the law-abiding route. Unless he went abroad, to Mexico or the Middle East. Or he set up a company and won the favor of arms dealers through high-value business contracts. Otherwise, it would be impossible to open up a channel. Quickly obtain a large number of firearms. In other words, except for robbing the warehouse of arms dealers. The only way for Rorschach to obtain a large number of firearms from the local area is through gangs. After all, snakes have their own ways, and rats have their own ways. Each gang controls one or several gun smuggling routes. So, the whole thing returned to the starting point again. However, it cannot be said that there was no progress. Rorschach's journey was not without gain. After spending $500 to equip the plasma pistol with a suitable sling holster, Rorschach successfully obtained a phone number related to a private gun dealer from a gun store owner. And according to the gossip of the gun store owner, the other party has no gang background. However, small businesses with less than 100 guns should not be disturbed to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings by gun dealers. Being treated as a police officer fishing, Rorschach was half believing and half doubting. However, he did not refuse the kindness of the gun store owner. He chose to write down the phone number. This can be regarded as finding a non-gang smuggling channel. As for the truth, Rorschach needs to judge it himself. At this time, Rorschach, who was strolling on the street, planned to go home first. A lot of things were still waiting for him to deal with. He needed to take a look at the decoration work of the restaurant and give his aunt suggestions for rectification. The makeup exam from Midtown High School also awaited his visit. Ah, my bicycle. Rorschach, who was thinking about it, suddenly stopped. He slapped his forehead with annoyance. Perhaps it was his strong physique and reckless behavior. In an instant, passers-by around him hid a few meters away. They avoided the startled Rorschach. Rorschach, standing in place, took a deep breath. He walked forward without looking around. As long as he was not embarrassed, then others would be embarrassed. As for the bicycle, according to the current security situation in New York, if it is parked outside the school for more than a day, it must be lost. Rorschach had no choice but to accept the reality. After walking through a block, Rorschach's eyes accidentally fell on the motorcycle shop next to the street. After hesitating for a moment, Rorschach instantly decided to upgrade his weapon. He stepped into the car shop, and before he had time to check the goods, a black-haired white man in a suit hurriedly came up. "Hello, sir, what kind of vehicle do you need to buy? Do you have a favorite model?" The white salesperson asked enthusiastically with a bright smile on his face. Faced with the inquiry, Rorschach shook his head and said politely, "I don't know much about motorcycles. The only requirement is the range." After listening to Rorschach's words, the white salesperson immediately became more enthusiastic. He raised his hand to signal and took Rorschach to a booth. Pointing to a luxury motorcycle that was slowly rotating on it, the luxury brand's senior master crafted it by hand, and every piece of metal part on the tough guy-style body is hand-assembled. The basic model is only 500,000. The second requirement is that the price should be cheaper. As a pragmatist, Rorschach couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He is not an avid motorcycle enthusiast. Any motorcycle is just a means of transportation for him. Besides, the world of the rich is still too far away from the millionaire Mr. Rorschach. "I'll have a chance to get some money from Stark in the future." It doesn't matter, let's take a look at this one, which is the latest product in spring. The same color scheme as Iron Man is a trend that young people are chasing. The price is 100,000, and credit card installment payments are welcome, with a maximum discount of 10%. Unfortunately, facing the rhetoric that the white salesperson desperately promoted, Rorschach couldn't help but take a deep breath. He now regrets entering this store very much. It seems to be to end this torture as soon as possible. Rorschach squinted his eyes and quickly glanced at the various motorcycles placed around. Then, he resolutely pointed to a vehicle that matched the tough guy temperament. "That's it. How much is it?" That. For a moment, the smile on the white salesman's face seemed to freeze. However, he still showed absolute professionalism. "This is a scooter that is loved by ladies and men of your physique. It is commonly known as a lamb. The price is only 5,000. But it doesn't meet your first requirement anyway." The white salesman's eyes revealed a trace of helplessness, and he smiled reluctantly. However, Rorschach smiled slightly. "It doesn't matter, it's cheap. Let's get two first, and use them up." Use them up. The white salesman seemed unable to understand the nonsense in Rorschach's mouth. However, it is a good thing that the salesman can successfully sell the goods. After Rorschach took out a stack of bills from his pocket, the white salesman had no complaints. After all, the customer is God. Hell's Kitchen, Baby Mall. A large number of forensic personnel affiliated with the FBI. Wearing white protective suits, they went in and out of the mall hall. They tried to continue to extract extra evidence from the ruins on the ground. In the weed-covered parking lot, a white police car parked among many black vehicles was particularly eye-catching. Police Captain George Stacy was sitting in the driver's seat. He held a cup of coffee in his hand and looked through the information spread out on the steering wheel. As a communication assistant between the police and the FBI, George obtained the basic authority to know the case. 20 hours after the incident, even though the genetic test has not been completed, through the dental records, the FBI also found out the true identities of all the dead. The Slavic, sportswear gang. Except for the leader Fatty Bobby who disappeared, the rest of the dead were basically gang backbones. If nothing unexpected happened, the sportswear gang has become the history of the New York Police Department. George took a sip of coffee and subconsciously flipped through the information. Then, he frowned instantly. His palm trembled, and even the coffee in the cup almost spilled on him. Even though George had seen the bodies of those children with his own eyes. But seeing it again from the photo file, George still couldn't stand it. As a father, he couldn't imagine it. If his baby daughter encountered the same thing, would he still be able to uphold the justice brought by the law? Perhaps it was difficult to collect evidence at the crime scene. However, the case was actually simple and easy to understand. Even a newcomer, it was easy to find the hidden truth. Revenge. Bloody revenge. Bloody revenge for the dead children. A vigilante, who has been fighting crime for many years, finally crossed the vague line because of the unbearable pain and anger. George frowned. Staring at a photo of the remains of a stick-like weapon in the file, he was stunned. The next morning, 8 o'clock. Google search reading. My aunt was just about to walk out of the apartment door. The road was blocked by two brightly colored little sheep motorcycles. Rorschach, who was standing aside, pointed at two motorcycles, one red and one yellow, and said with a smile, "Aunt, although your birthday is still more than half a year away, this can be considered an early gift. Anyway, be happy with everything. You brat." Spending money randomly again. Although the aunt couldn't help but roll her eyes at Rorschach. But the grinning corners of his mouth could not hide the smile on his face. "Aunt, let me teach you." The smiling Rorschach wanted to teach her aunt how to operate a motorcycle. Unexpectedly, her aunt pushed Luo Sha away. The slightly round chin was raised high. "Your aunt used to be an experienced motorcycle gunner. Well, oh, these are all stories from her youth, so don't tell them." The words were not spoken yet. I don't know whether it was the excitement or the blushing aunt. He actually hurriedly snatched the key that Luo Sha was carrying. She chose the little yellow sheep. "Start the ignition skillfully." Then, my aunt waved her hand and walked away without looking back. "Tisk, I'm looking down on you." Rorschach's eyes widened and he couldn't help but marvel. At the same time, Rorschach also wished her aunt who had received the gift. I think we can have enough understanding for him obtaining the privilege of making up the exam without authorization. Rorschach subconsciously put his hands behind his back. With a smile on his face, he went upstairs and went home. However, after studying hard for an hour, furious, Rorschach raised his chainsword. He was dancing crazily in the living room, as if he was crazy. Why do students need to learn algebraic geometry and mathematics? Aren't the various angles and methods of arranging murder traps bad? Why do students need to take performance art electives? Is Katachan fighting skills no longer good? Or is Krieg's combat skills poor? After swinging the chainsword continuously for half an hour, exhausted, Rorschach casually dropped his weapon. He sat on the sofa and kept breathing. Forget it if you can't find gun resources. The simulator can still sustain several simulations. However, his diploma continued to cause obstacles in his life. This is even more troublesome. As the time goes, Rorschach's eyelids slowly closed and he snored. After Rorschach was awakened by the sound of the door opening, he suddenly realized that the sky outside had darkened. He actually slept all day. Rorschach just wanted to get up and go to the kitchen to make dinner for her aunt. Turning around, I saw my aunt sitting on the sofa in silence with an ugly face. Luo Sha frowned slightly and asked in confusion, "Aunt, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with the restaurant decoration?" "Jerry, Big Mouth Mike's missing brother has been found." Auntie's eyes were slightly red, she choked and said, "Mike called me. He cried and said that his brother was found, but he was no longer human." Mike's mother was completely insane because she couldn't bear the stimulation. Big-mouthed Mike resigned and expressed his apology, so I didn't retain him. Rorschach was silent. There was no expression on his face, and he was as calm as a corpse. Rorschach was actually the first person to know. Unfortunately, there were too many changes involved. He couldn't tell Mike the truth himself. Mike said that because the police still needed to preserve evidence, Jerry's funeral was scheduled for half a month later. My aunt wiped her slightly moist eyes with the back of her hand, shook her head and sighed. Mike said he thanked us for taking care of us over the years, and he hoped we could go to the funeral then. Luo Sha nodded silently and whispered, "You really should go there. This is also basic etiquette." "Which community is Mike's home in?" The aunt sighed and said, "Harlem is that famous community of color." Luo Sha frowned slightly, then relaxed. He said to his aunt with a serious expression, "The public security in that community is very poor. Don't go there without my company. Big Mouth Mike is a good person, but that doesn't mean that all black people are like that." The aunt nodded, stared at Rorschach and said, "I understand. By the way, there is one more thing to tell you. Now that Mike has resigned, the restaurant also needs to recruit waiters and chefs again. Rorschach, you have grown up and have your own career. I don't know anything about superheroes or Captain America, but I know you want to work hard to do good things. This is something worthy of recognition, so my aunt won't stop you. Aunt, actually I. Hear your aunt's words. Rorschach couldn't help but open his mouth, but the words welling up in his throat could not come out. Auntie waved her hand and continued. I just hope that you won't be injured or your life will be in danger. I won't force anything else. Rorschach immediately nodded heavily. After being silent for a moment, he changed the subject. Aunt, have you thought about what kind of person you want to recruit? It doesn't matter whether you're male or female, the main thing is to be careful and obedient, and to be nimble with your hands and feet. Auntie frowned slightly, thought for a while and said, it doesn't matter if you can't cook. It's just cutting vegetables and serving food. It's a simple job. Anyway, let's talk about it after the interview, okay? Rorschach shrugged his shoulders and chatted with his aunt casually. Not long after, he ended the conversation with his aunt. Midnight. Rorschach, expressionless, held the chainsaw sword in one hand. The other hand holding the plasma pistol was placed on his chest. He lay on the bed and stared at the dim ceiling. Rorschach just checked the number of missing children in the country in recent years. The number of people counted by the New York police alone made him feel shocked. If the disabled children were killed for the economic benefits brought by their organs and corneas, then where did the other more healthy children go? Are the sportswear gangs the only ones in New York and even the whole country that carry out similar criminal business? Is the so-called underground king the mastermind behind the entire profit chain? Does he need to notify the superheroes? It's not certain whether Iron Man Stark will take care of it. But Captain America will definitely take care of it. But if Rorschach accidentally reveals his identity, then, S.H.I.E.L.D., which is full of Hydra, will always be a huge hidden danger. Also, how can the resources and guns of the simulator be obtained stably? Should I just go crazy and rob the warehouse of the arms dealer? Or learn how to make a gun from the internet? If I make a gun, what materials are needed? Rorschach closed his eyes and his mind was full of thoughts. He thought back and forth about many unanswered questions. Until he was drowsy and confused. An idea that he had ignored for a long time suddenly burst out of his mind. I am out of touch with the news, but someone is well informed. Rorschach sat up from the bed in an instant, with a faint smile on his lips. For example, dear classmate Eugene, Rorschach, wearing a black peaked cap, appeared in apartment 403. He held a well-packaged box under one arm. Boom, boom, boom. The other hand knocked on the door in front of him. No one answered. The patient Rorschach struck again. Boom, boom, boom. After waiting for a while, a cautious voice sounded from inside the door. Who? Luo Sha narrowed her eyes slightly and said calmly. Me, Rorschach. The words were not spoken yet. There was a flurry of footsteps retreating back and forth, quickly moving away from the door. Rorschach couldn't help but sigh when he heard the movement. Obviously, Eugene had a lot of psychological shadow about his visit. Tens of seconds later, with the sound of footsteps approaching again, the door opened slightly a crack. From the crack in the door, a pair of alert and slightly frightened eyes were revealed. I really haven't done anything bad recently. I've been staying at home to recuperate. Rorschach blinked and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Eugene, I'm not here to trouble you, I have business to attend to. However, Eugene's eyes were full of doubt. Real. Luo Sha's face darkened and he scolded. Open the door. Okay. Crash. In an instant, the chain fell off. Eugene opened the door. It also revealed the collar on his neck, as well as his right arm and left foot that were in plaster. Eugene tried his best to nod and bend, forced a forced smile on his face, and motioned for Rorschach to come in. Rorschach nodded and walked into the apartment. Before he could open his mouth to explain his purpose, Eugene, whose forehead was covered with sweat, said first. Rorschach, I haven't disclosed a word about you to the outside world. Ever since I found out that those gangs kidnapped children, I won't betray you even if I am beaten to death. Thank you, but I'm not here for this. Rorschach, who was standing there, took a look at Eugene's injuries and said. Then, he pulled out the box held under his arm. It was a mobile phone gift box with the Iron Man logo printed on it. I came to you just to give you a new mobile phone. Do you believe it? I don't believe it. Eugene looked at Rorschach in surprise. There was some uneasiness in his expression. Seeing that Rorschach is now tall and strong. The muscles under the clothes are stronger than him. Eugene, who didn't want to be beaten, quickly laughed. Rorschach, do you want my help with something? Don't worry, I know what I was like in the past, and I also know how much I'm worth. However, Rorschach shook his head slightly. He stared at Eugene and said with a sincere expression, I used to be very angry and used extreme methods to deal with problems. Therefore, I specially bought a new mobile phone co-branded with Iron Man and gave it back to you as an apology. As soon as he finished speaking, the sneer on Eugene's face gradually disappeared. He looked at Rorschach repeatedly. Suddenly he shook his head and said with a smile, I thought you came here to apologize. However, I am still sure that you really have something to ask me for. After speaking, Eugene moved. He limped to the side of the sofa and sat down slowly. Rorschach raised his eyebrows and walked over, sitting opposite Eugene. As soon as he sat down, he handed the mobile phone case to Eugene. Eugene, who frowned slightly, took it but did not choose to open it. Instead, he placed it gently on his thigh, with the plaster on his right hand pressing down on the box. Eugene hesitated and asked, Rorschach, if you have anything to ask me, just tell me. I will do my best to help you wherever I can. Okay, then I won't be polite. Rorschach, who squinted his eyes, nodded. Do you have a wide enough circle of friends? Do you know some friends in gray industries? I need some intelligence information. Eugene, am not bragging. I have friends all over New York, the gray industry. Which one are you referring to? Counterfeit money, forged documents, or something else? Eugene blinked a few times and asked very cautiously. Rorschach did not hide anything and said straight to the point. I need guns, lots of guns. The more, the better. If you can't get too much at one time, the quantity provided per week cannot be less than 100. Of course, because it is a long-term purchase, the price must be more favorable. Mr. Police, I'm a good person. I don't join a gang. I don't participate in smuggling either. However, Rorschach's confession caused Eugene to misunderstand. Eugene suddenly raised his voice and shouted loudly. At the same time, he looked towards the door, as if waiting for something to happen. Rorschach was stunned for a moment, and then understood why Eugene reacted like this. He waved his hand, sighed and said, I don't carry any listening equipment, and I'm not fishing for the police. Rorschach explained it several times. This dispelled Eugene's concerns. Then, Eugene, who frowned, grinned and said, Rorschach, I remember you hadn't graduated from high school when I was expelled, right? Why did you buy so many guns? That many guns are enough to start a small war. Do you plan to be a second-rate dealer? Luo Shaw smiled slightly and remained silent. Eugene, with a gloomy face, kept looking at Rorschach. His expression changed back and forth. He hesitated for a long time before he said cautiously, I can't promise you, I can only do my best. After all, I'm just a gangster who hasn't even joined a gang, but I have a wider range of friends. Rorschach nodded to show his understanding. He didn't rely entirely on Eugene. It would be best if it could be done, and if it failed, he would find another way. Rorschach and Eugene continued to discuss for a while. After agreeing on the contact information, Rorschach got up and left. As the door closed, Eugene, limping, slumped back on the sofa. His eyes subconsciously fell on the mobile phone box with the very eye-catching Iron Man logo. The emotions that had been brewing for a long time. Eugene suddenly sighed. It's been a long time since anyone gave me a gift. Eugene, with a complicated expression, took out an old keypad mobile phone from the plaster of his arm. He planned to contact his friends and ask Rorschach for news. At this moment, the door of the apartment was knocked again. Knock, knock, knock. Eugene was slightly stunned. Rorschach is back again, regretted giving the phone away, and planned to take it back. Eugene, who secretly complained, stood up again with difficulty. Limped to the door. However, after opening the door, what appeared in front of Eugene was a strange tall figure. A height of more than 1.9 meters. A Slavic woman with fair skin, blonde hair and blue eyes. At a glance, her physique was even stronger than that of Eugene, a man, and her whole body exuded a mixed beauty of strength and elegance. Before Eugene, who was puzzled, asked. The delicate Slavic woman suddenly asked in a cold tone. Are you Eugene? I am Sergei's mother. He has been missing for a week. Do you know his whereabouts? As soon as the voice fell, Eugene's back suddenly felt cold and cold sweat oozed out of his back.